I was about to say, I don't see that. I don't see that record button.
Hey, come on, let's get it. Let's get it. Hey, man, we just prayed it in. I got my boy Akiem Jones here. I got to start by giving you your flowers, brother. I always do this, but man, one, I got to say, yo, thank you. So those who don't know, this is my third time sitting down with Akiem. The last one, I don't know, dog. I just felt as though I was in my bag. And the crazy part is when I go back and listen to the actual interview, I was like, this is what needs to be on podcast. But I got so caught up in trying to recreate some other content that I was chasing and seeing what other people are doing. And it's so funny, bro. After I went back and I listened to it again, let's do it twice.
Yeah.
Even created clips for it. I was going to share it on social media. I actually did share it on social media. I shared a couple clips on social media, but then I took it down because once again, I felt as though it was just it wasn't what I was looking for, man. So when I went back, I was like, yo, this is actually what needs to be done. And I felt good about it. So I just got caught up, bro. I got caught up, man, and that is the word of consecration. But I'm past those days, my G. I am past
As
those
we all
days,
do. As
my
we all
G.
do.
What's popping, man? Holla at me, man. Oh, before we even get started, man, I'm over here assuming that people know you because every time I get a chance, I pull you into any conversations or I like to share your content on my socials. But for those who don't know you, man, introduce yourself.
Yeah, so I'm Akiem Jones. I think most people know me as a CPA, certified public accountant. So I'm a CPA. I'm also an author. We got 3 books on finance and entrepreneurship. One of those books being on taxes for small businesses. I'm the CEO of the Solutions Group. We provide financial education to the many people that wouldn't receive it otherwise. I'm also a real estate investor, husband, father. So just a little bit.
Many titles, man. One thing I always give you praise on, man. No matter what room you're in, you present yourself. Like there's no compartmentalized when it comes to you. You're Akiem Jones in any circle, man. Like where does that come from? Like where's that confidence come from? Where does that come from?
For me, it's not. I mean, I guess you could call it confidence a little bit, but I'm introverted, right? So when it comes to like small talk, I'm not really there. I'll have a little bit of conversation with you, but I kind of shy away from the small talk. But I think probably most of the rooms that most people on social media or the internet see me in, I'm in a room that's like my thing. So like anything financial literacy, investing, business, that's my thing. And that's what lights up for me. So that's kind of the person I've become. So anytime I'm out, I'm usually in that type of environment, or people see me in that environment so much that they naturally gravitate the conversation towards my environment.
No doubt. Now I can definitely see that because I know a lot of people go to you specifically for finance. You do many things, but I know that's your bag. Financial literacy is your bag, and that kind of pulls me into sort of first aspect of it, man. One of the things that I've always gave you praise again about is just your conviction around financial literacy, right? I started this conversation last time by saying that before financial literacy was even popular, you were in that. I remember early on, you and I got together, and this was years. I can't remember what year it was, but I think it might have been the first year, maybe the second year that you just moved back to the Hampton Roads area from the DC area. And you knew then already what your roadmap was, and everything was around financial literacy, and specifically for the Black community, or maybe I would say the underserved community. And so, was entrepreneurship and financial literacy something that you did growing up? Like, was that a household topic, or like, where's the bridge between that?
Yeah, so nah, not at all. I think the first time that I realized that I kind of knew what I wanted to do, I was in the crib talking to my mom, and she said something about like, maybe I said like, hey, I'm thinking about doing this accounting thing because I took an accounting course in high school. And I was like, this seems all right. I did some research. They said it was a steady field, good job security. I mentioned it to my mother, and she said, my accountant makes more than me. And I was like, oh, we live in a pretty good life.
That's all
So
we need.
that's a fact. That's where I'm gonna go with it. So I went to college, got an accounting degree, started working in corporate America. But then I think like a lot of people, I read Rich Dad Poor Dad. And to me, I think for a lot of people, Rich Dad Poor Dad is a personal finance book. To me, it's an accounting book. All the illustrations in Rich Dad Poor Dad are simple assets minus liabilities equals owner's equity or personal equity, however you want to put it. So I read that book and I realized, oh, accounting is my superpower, right? Because I went to school and I learned how to be an accountant for big corporations, but I didn't learn how to be an accountant for myself. So after I read Rich Dad Poor Dad, the light bulb went off, and I realized that my superpower in business and personal finance and investing in this world was me being an accountant, and I understood how the numbers went. So I think after that day, I was like, all right, boom, I know what I want to do.
Nah, I respect that, man. I don't have a particular book. I did read Rich Dad Poor Dad. I feel like everyone that gets introduced to investing kind of goes through that. It's almost
Yeah.
like the gate before you actually get into that. But I think one of the things that really introduced me to being at least having a better interest in finance was real estate. It wasn't a particular book though, but it was just like just reading different articles, looking at the 1%, seeing what they're doing. And as I started to really deep dive, I noticed that everyone had real estate in portfolio. And I was like, there's a reason for this. So that's what really struck me. And I was like, yo, I got to tap into this a little bit more. But you branched also from financial literacy, and you've morphed into this serial entrepreneur. So was entrepreneurship anything that your parents talked about? And the reason I asked that, because I feel as though this generation, we understand that we can't work for someone else for a living, right?
Mm-hmm.
That transaction of let me work these amount of hours for an exchange, I get this check. And it was funny, man, because I, grew up in an African household. We didn't talk about these things growing up. We didn't talk about finances. We didn't talk about we didn't talk about sex in the household. Like we didn't talk about things that you want to encourage people to talk about at an early age, man. But we didn't talk about any of those things. We didn't talk about entrepreneurship. So it gives me great pleasure, whenever like my parents are calling and saying, "Hey, I saw what you did when I was doing real estate. I saw what you did here. That's really good." Walking me through that process. Or my older brother giving me praise, saying, "Yo, P, I see what you're doing. It motivates me." Like that right there is all the ammunition I need. That's the air in my wings. Like, yo, that's what I need to do. Me to be that living example for my children, my family, really. So I wonder, like, for you, are you that person maybe that's kind of pushing the throttle a little bit forward, or did you see that growing up?
Nah, I think I'm definitely the person that's pushing the throttle. I think I think my parents put us in a good position to be in a suburban household. I come from two military parents, retired out of Hampton, Virginia. So I think, was never struggling or anything like that. But as far as like, tapping into generational wealth and real money, because I think me and my friends growing up, all we knew was like rapper money. And I wanted to be a rapper until like in a couple of years before I graduated high school, I graduated college, because that's really all I knew. Like, all right, I'm gonna get this rap money, I'm gonna be rich. But then once I got into the world of investing and entrepreneurship, and I saw, oh, there's a different way to be rich, and it's not as hard as people make it seem. So that's when I started chasing that.
Yeah, nah, I definitely feel it, man. I feel as though too, there's so much information out there. It would be naive and almost, I don't want to use the word stupid. I really don't, but to that, in that same vein, for us not to leverage it. We've never been in a position to where information is literally at our fingertips on anything. You could become a subject matter expert in anything, any field right now that could lead you to generational wealth, no matter what that looks like. I mean, there's so many hustles right now. People selling shirts, people selling products. E-com is a booming business right now, where you can literally just understand within 2 YouTube videos on how to grow a company at large. It comes with some knowledge and some lessons learned, but if you stick to the course, you could definitely do it.
Yeah, and the crazy thing is, and I think we've talked about this a couple times, I think in certain generations, there's certain advantages, and then maybe those advantages become disadvantage. I think in this generation, information is so readily available that that's no more a competitive advantage. The competitive advantage is the confidence, the not having fear to actually go after what you want to get. Because you can get information all day, you can podcast, you can book, you can et cetera, et cetera. But the people who actually win are the people that do. So I think the ability to do this generation exceeds our access to information at this point, especially when you're talking about a larger scale. Because I think we know a lot of people, ourselves included, that have so much information, but we know people that may have the same information that are, have scaled so much because they tapped into their ability to just do.
Yeah. Nah, that's so spot on, man. And you and I talked about this last time, and we talked about this, off air, that one of the things I'm challenging myself and I'm doing a better job is, just don't consume information, actually apply it and even share it, right? Like we get into this content creation world where I feel as though you have to be very service oriented. You're not going to build, some people are, let me refrain from saying that, but some people are actually building a business by sharing content, but it takes time. There's longevity that comes with that. Early on when you're doing it purely out of servitude. Like, how do I do this? How I share this information? And you hit it on the head where, we have to get into the position to where we're not just reading all these books. We actually have to apply it, because you could retain all this information, and if you don't use it, what is it good for?
Right.
Like, for real.
Okay.
Yeah, that's fat. Yo, talking. I'm at a dinner party and I can say, hey, I know about the algorithms and artificial intelligence, and that's it. So I'm popular at dinner parties.
After a while, you gonna be the person that talks about it. See, I think that's one of my things. I never want to be the person that they'd be like, man, Keaton come around, he be talking about all that stuff, but I'll never see him doing that joint. So like, I think there's a very fine line between having the information and doing something with the information.
That's facts. That's facts. So there's something else that you're doing that I'm loving right now, man, because I think that's what really lacks in just entrepreneurship, and that's building a community, right? I think a lot of us, when we get this information or we're trying to apply and build something, we immediately go into who's my competitor and we try to pin ourselves against them. But you've done something different. So you're building these sessions where people are getting together, sharing their knowledge. You're building a room full of people who are just hungry for the information, who are God willingly going to implement it, but at least you're creating an ecosystem where this information is being shared. So tell us about that process, man, and how that's going.
Yeah, so I got this thing called the Rent Money Meetup, where I get folks in the Hampton Roads area together to talk about real estate investing. I really try to highlight people in the area that are really doing it in the area, because I think, one, we overlook the legends around us, right? We take it for granted. So I want to spotlight other people that are doing it big in the area. Number two, everything's reciprocal. You give and you get, right? Rather you realize that you're giving and getting or not, you give and you get. So I try to give as much as possible. If you're doing your thing on this thing, I try to give you praise here. A homegirl doing her thing over here, try to give her, you want to sponsor this joint that can give you some, because it's all going to come back. It's all reciprocal, rather it's monetary today or it's monetary next year. It's all reciprocal. And then the last thing is just, it all turns into content as well. One of the things I love, I love like music videos, and I love like documentaries, like on Instagram and stuff. So one of my favorite things is boxing, and they got like all access 24/7, and just the cinematic nature behind how you watch somebody, work and achieve really, really appeals to me. So with the meetups, what I'm trying to do is get people together to give the information and all that, but also create that cinematic story for what I'm doing and what other people in the community are doing as well, and hope that attracts people to investing and finance and wealth building, like it attracts me to something like boxing.
So for those who are going to those meetings and they may be scared to even apply what they're learning, right? Like you got to get off the porch. For those who are nervous about doing that, or even going into content creation, but there's this imposter syndrome that forces them not to do it, right? Or this anxiety that's around it. What advice can you tell them? And I know personally, you and I have talked about that. Imposter syndrome just being one of those things that, man, you just got to fight through. You got to fight through, and you just got to be about action. I think that's the only way to really do. I'm kind of answering the question from my perspective, but only way for me to like really get over imposter syndrome was for me to apply pressure and apply action. That's the only way to do it. So the point where you get to the point where you're, it's just second nature. Sharing just becomes what you want to do, right? And who you are. So like, how do you advise other people who are kind of going through that?
Yeah, I think the first one, and how I would most plainly put it, is what you just said. You just got to do it. If you're looking to get into content creation or real estate, whatever it is, there's something that you should do today that you're not doing because you're afraid to do it.
Thanks.
That's number one. Whatever that thing is that you're afraid to do it, because that's the hurdle right there. You can feel it inside you, right? It's on your mind, but you're not doing it because you're afraid. So number one, just do that thing. Number two, with the meetups, I get people from Hampton Roads to teach about real estate in Hampton Roads to get that fear out of the way. There's nobody better to teach you about investing in a house next door than somebody that invested in a house right next door to that.
Facts.
Right.
Yeah.
So I want to make it closer to home so people understand, like, oh, this ain't some person that's like investing in Milwaukee and don't know that like Norfolk floods.
Mhm.
Right. This is somebody from Hampton Roads that has a property in Norfolk that they know the flood zone. Right.
Yeah.
And then I think the last thing is like, you gotta, for content creation, you just gotta feel that feeling, right?
Yeah.
You gotta feel that feeling of, bro, I look ugly on this video, but I'm gonna keep it up anyway. Like, oh, I stuttered in this joint, but I'm gonna keep it up anyway. Dang, ain't nobody like my joint, but I'm gonna keep it up anyway. My people ain't support me, but I'm gonna keep it up anyway. You just gotta feel it.
You got to build that muscle, man, and that goes back to my earlier comment. So this is the conversation I've been having myself on. I got to make sure that I'm being inspired and not influenced. So the first videos that I was doing, I was being heavily influenced by the things that I was seeing. So because my first production wasn't the best, I will immediately take it down. Or if I wasn't taking it down, I was looking at their design kits and trying to replicate it. I got to the point where I didn't even recognize myself. Like the logos were different. The way I was delivering content was different. And like I said earlier, I had to get to the point where when I went back to listen to our episode last time, I was like, nah, this is me. And it felt good. Going back to your point, like it felt good. I felt like I was in my bag in those conversations. So I just got this mental model now of, whether it's ugly, whether it's trash, it doesn't matter. I'm working that muscle right now. And that's it. I don't care how it's received. I'm going to focus on my process and make sure that I'm getting better with time, but I'm not chasing perfection anymore. I'm just really just looking at progress, and that's it.
Yeah. And I think one more thing that people got to realize is like, you are, to some extent, you are in control of who sees your social media content and how successful it is. But Instagram, Facebook, TikTok are also in control of what people say. There's certain things that they just not going to push.
Yeah.
Right. There's certain things that they like, oh, people like this type of thing, we're going to push it out. And you only get that from like doing 5 whack videos, right? And then the 6th one, you're like, oh dang, this joint is doing numbers, right? And then maybe you got to do 2 more that don't do no more numbers, and then the 3rd one does bigger numbers, and then you go on. So you got to keep on doing it, keep on staying consistent. If the audience that you're targeting likes your stuff, eventually they'll catch on. And I think weighing support versus like belief, I started telling people, like, it's not that people don't support you, it's that they might not believe you yet. It's that they don't know if you're going to make content this week and then sell rubber bands next week and then be an exercise expert the week after that. Like, people just don't believe you yet. So they want to see the consistency to know, if I follow this page, like, he going to give me tax content next year. He going to give me, like, so you got to be consistent. You got to, be okay with the ups and downs. And it's not that people don't support you. They might just not believe you yet.
Man, that's so spot on, dog. And you got me thinking about so many different things. There's a statement you said earlier about, the social media platforms. They're going to push what they want to push. There's a massive algorithm that's going to push whatever details they want to push. Everyone has an agenda, and that's what they're going to, continue to pursue. So one of the things that I'm really focused on right now is don't be a slave to the algorithm, create my own platform. I'm still defining what that looks like, but I really want to own the platform, right? And as I'm doing that, I'm refining and getting better at my craft and things like that. But you just said something just now too, man, about just the consistency of it. And this kind of leads into a question. Do you think that you have to be niche whenever you're creating content? Or can you be kind of start macro and then fine tune? Like, what are your thoughts with that?
I think you can do whatever you want to do. I think everything works as long as you work it.
Yeah.
Like, I think niche may be the quicker way to get there.
Yeah.
Right. Because you can't do everything for everybody. So I started as, I'm an accountant, and then I was like, I'm a small business accountant. right? And then it was like, all right, I'm a real estate investor. I can teach people about real estate investing. And then I was like, all right, I'm a real estate investor. I can teach rookies about real estate. Let me teach you how to get your first property, right? So I started general, and I think I always start general wherever I'm going. And then I try to whittle it down to say, all right, what am I specifically trying to message to the people that are following me? Because for me, that just makes it easier. But at the end of the day, I think niche gets you there a little faster, but I think everything works as long as you work it.
I think what stands out for you though is you speak from a lens of experience, right? So yours is not necessarily niche. You started here and then you moved into another category. It was more so of I actually went through this. I experienced it myself, and this is what I learned. So you're speaking from a place of experience and lessons learned. So I think that's what kind of sets you apart, right? I think there's a lot of people who start this content creation side of the house and they want to be a subject matter expert in something they've never done before. Like I can't come to you and say, I know how to scale your business to 10 mil. I've never done that before. But I could tell you, hey, you're a small bit. Me personally, I could tell you, hey, I'm a small business consultant, and I could definitely get you to making a couple grand a month because that's what I do for a living. So I think there's there's a different dynamic there too. And one of the things that I struggled with early on was I thought I had to be niche. I was like, man, I started off just talking about my journey. It was extremely explorative. So I'll talk about my journey, how I moved here. Then I'll talk about, I went through this fast and this triggered so many things for me. Then I love business. So that was like the root of a lot of these conversations. And then, I tapped into a little bit of real estate and I just all over the place, B. But, I got to the point where I was like, yo, Pat, you're speaking from a place of your personal accounts. That's it. So you don't have to be necessarily in a niche market. Just talk to your experiences, sort of like what you're doing. Just talk to your experiences. And from there, everything will make sense. So even if people were to ask me, yo, how do you define beyond the resume? Bruh, given on the certain day, I'll give you a certain answer. You know what I mean? It's all about what season I'm in. Yo, it's a life podcast? No, it's a faith podcast? No, we talk about business. Bro, it's the convergence of all these different things, B. Like, I can't tell you, I can't give you, bullet point answers on this resume. I just can't, bro. And nor am I going to try. That's just what it is.
Yeah, and I think going back to the imposter syndrome thing, if you're teaching people something that you've never done before, you might have a reason to have imposter syndrome. That's a good place to start, right? And the way I combat that is I don't teach people stuff that I've never done before, right? I share what I'm doing. I share my successes. I try to share downfalls as well, but I feel confident and comfortable about it because these are things I've done before. This is my knowledge base. If you don't like it or you don't think I'm right, then there's plenty of other people you can go to. But I feel like less of an imposter because I'm only teaching you what I know and what I've done.
And that just builds your confidence in what you're teaching, and it portrays. Like when you're talking from things that you actually done, you could talk to those small details that at a macro view, someone just read an article or looked up a chat GPT script is not going to be able to speak to. So I think that's spot on, man. So it's April. I want to pivot a little bit because it's April, Financial Literacy Month. This is your playground. This is what you do for a living.
That's a fact.
What are some things that if someone's listening to this that you wish you knew early on about finance?
Something I wish I knew early on. For real, I'm going to get specific with this one. If I knew I could buy a crib while I was in college and rent my rooms out to my roommates, I would have, I'm telling you, it would have been nasty by now. That's 15 years ago, G. Imagine getting your first property 15 years ago that you rented out to your roommates, and from there you got the game. Like, let's get one house every 2 years from then. Like you seven cribs in now. It would have got nasty. It would have got nasty down here.
I think with mine, I would have been more hungry early on and also not played around with it. I remember when the market hit, we was in college. I think I was a sophomore, might have been a junior. I can't remember now, but when the market crashed. And that's when all the stocks were down. I didn't know how to buy yet, but I was looking at it. I was tracking everything. And I was telling myself, well, Citi, for instance, Citigroup was dropped down to like $3.42. So I'm thinking, I'm not even sure what they're trading at now, but I was looking at that, specifically that one for some reason. I'm not sure, maybe because it's in the finance sector. And I was like, man, I need to jump on that. Never did though. Because why? No one else in my circle was talking about it. You know, and I was like, I didn't want to be the odd one out. Everyone is more so saying, hey, don't buy because the market's looking crazy right now. Bro, that should have been my time to be like, hey, yo, I gotta rack up. Didn't do it, man. So I think early on, my advice would have been start early. It's never too early to do it, nor is it never too late. But you gotta play ball. Absolutely. So my next question for you, representing financial literacy, man, would be this might be too personal. What's your biggest L, and what did you learn from it?
Biggest L. I'm trying to find. I mean, there's always L's. I'm trying to find.
Oh, I was about to say, hey, this dude got no L's. Hey, we make money every year.
I'm trying. All right, I'll say this. Stock investing, bro. It's like picking individual stocks was just the biggest L. So I did cannabis stocks at the that was probably the biggest L. I did cannabis stocks at the peak, G. I think it was like February 2021, the super peak. I went all in, G. I went like 10 G's in. Man, 3 months later, I said, man, get out of here.
Yo.
Yeah, I hit it at the peak, G. I hit it at Mania. I hit it at Mania. I was on social media with it too, like, yo, this joint blow up.
Hey, sharing the IG stories. Hey, yo, just buy this cannabis. Yo, I used to track all the trades you were doing. I was tracking. Man. Oh, yo, Akiem doing it? Oh, we got money. We making money.
Man, it got ugly for me, G.
It got ugly, man. I when it came to stocks, man, I didn't do my proper due diligence. But I'll say I lost some L's. I'm not gonna sit and hold you. I was playing with options. So when the market was going up, everyone was winning. Man, I think I lost about had to be, I think about 6,000 on SMH, semiconductor ETF. Aggressive, playing options, being too aggressive. I'm looking at my entire portfolio, everything up 40%. So I'm thinking I'm a master stock trader. Bruh, I was winning because the market was winning. That was it. I took an L on that one. But I think my biggest L, though, financially, and also what pivoted a lot of things that I do in real estate was our flip on Merrimack. So Merrimack, for those that don't know, years ago, my partner and I were doing a flip on Merrimack, and you know, shout out to your team as well, the people that you had coming out to your sessions, Terry Yon and his whole team. My boy Trav Tate as well, man. They came and saved us. So what I messed up on, not against the details, but I lost a lot of money on that deal because I used a contractor that I had a personal relationship with. That's not the bad thing. Like, you could always work with a contractor that you form a relationship with. But you have to also understand that you have to trust but verify. I trusted the work was being done, but I never verified it. So we would go to the property, even though nothing was done in that day. I would trust, oh, well, this is my friend. He's not going to do anything to me, but did not verify. So it would be a couple of days between me going to the site, maybe even a week, whatever the case is. Next thing you know, I'm like, yo, nothing has been done on this property. And what I should have done too is build boundaries around it too. Like, I should have had like the contract in place that protected us moving forward. Biggest L that I learned that I would never go into again. My out of pocket myself, I lost about 75 or 8,000 on that. And that should have been the cleanup for us. Like, that property would have been we out of here. Like this is going to lead us to being full-time on this flip. But it is what it is, man. Lessons learned, man. That's years ago, but now I play the game completely different now. Completely different.
No, that's a fact.
Man, then my last question for you, man. For those who are just now getting into finance, what would be like your finance 101 for them? Very clean. Hey, yo, this is what I would do. You know, not complicated. Like, what's the advice that you would give them?
Yeah, I'd know your status. So you got to create a budget. You know, people don't like to hear that word, but you got to create a budget. You got to pull the last I'd say 3 months of spending and look yourself in the mirror and say, what am I spending on? Like, what am I really about? From my perspective, what you spend on is who you are, right? If you say, I'm a health expert, you're not spending money at McDonald's, right? If you say I live clean, you're not spending money at the ABC store all the time, right? So you got to follow the money. So I try to look at my bank account and assess what my priorities are based on what my spending is, right? If I say I want my kids to be cultured and well-rounded and eat right and all that stuff, I should have some money going out for, lessons on this and education on that, right? So I would say, number one, first and foremost, you got to create a budget. You got to understand what you're spending your money on, and you got to ask yourself, am I okay spending money on the things that I'm spending money on? And number two, I'm gonna make it real easy for you. You got to read 5 finance books. After you read 5 personal finance books, you'll know where you want to go, because there's plenty of ways you can go. You can be Dave Ramsey, debt free, chicken and rice, not spending money, or you can be the millionaire fast lane. I want to create some business, focus on income. You could be investor, things like that. So I would read like Rich Dad Poor Dad. I'd read the Millionaire Fast Lane by MJ DeMarco. I would read the Total Money Makeover by Dave Ramsey. I would read Set for Life by Scott Trench. I would read I got like 10 books in my little 10 personal finance books you should read. But first, I would say know your status. Second, I would say read like 5 personal finance books. And that's really all you're gonna need to get started, because that's gonna give you plenty of action to take.
Nah, I think that's so spot on, man. That's something I'm actually focusing on now. Stone and I, or those who listening, Stone's my wife, and that's what we're focused on right now, right? And mind you, we're 9 years in, so this is our first time saying, yo, we need to do better with our finances as far as working together, right? So this is the most we've ever made before. We're very good, but now it's how do we become better stewards of it? Like, how do we manage what we have and not just use it to pay bills? Like, how do we take this money in and then increase it, right? Like, how do we, that mentality switch of I don't make money just to pay bills. I make money to invest and grow, right? How to take this dollar and making it to 2. So that's what we focus on this year, man. So everything right now is literally just education for us.
Okay. Yeah,
that's spot on, man. That's spot on. Man, my brother, man, I when I say I appreciate you, man, for jumping on here, and I'm gonna pull you back on because there's something else I want to talk to you about, some things that you got going on, but we'll say that for later on, man. Where can people follow you and just join in on the conversations?
Yeah, follow me at the Solutions Group, THE Solutions Group _. You'll see a white picture with our little logo in the back. Bio will say Akiem J CPA. But yeah, follow me on Instagram at the Solutions Group. DM is probably the best place to find me.
My G. Hey man, I appreciate you, boy.
Hey, I appreciate you, my G.
All right, man, we'll wrap.
Hey, take it easy.
All right, yo.